The last morning Marcus spent with Tiana never looked like the start of an ending. The sun slipped through the blinds in their small Maryland apartment, brushing his daughter's curls as she slept on his chest. He remembered thinking that life, even in its roughest form, had little pockets of sweetness that made the struggle feel worthwhile. He kissed Alina's forehead, whispered a promise he barely understood, and stood up to get ready for another long shift. By afternoon, that fragile sense of stability cracked. Tiana stood near the door with a suitcase pulled halfway open, stuffing clothes in without looking at him. Her movements were sharp, impatient, like she had rehearsed this moment so many times that emotions no longer had a place in it. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach, a sensation he knew meant trouble long before anyone said a word. He tried to keep his voice steady. "Tiana, what are you doing?" She didn't meet his eyes. "Marcus, I can't live like this anymore. It's draining me. I'm tired of working around your hours, your money problems, I don't know, your whole situation." "My situation," he repeated quietly. "Our situation, our family." She let out a breath that sounded almost relieved. "I'm leaving, and I'm not doing this alone. You know Jamal from the diner. He offered me a place, a fresh start." The world didn't tilt or spin, nothing dramatic like in stories, but Marcus felt a slow tearing inside him, a pull he couldn't stop. He wasn't angry at first, just confused, stunned that she could say such a thing while their daughter's toys lay scattered on the floor, proof of the life they had built together. "You're leaving Alina." His voice cracked on her name. "I'm not ready to be a mother," she said, her tone quiet but unshakable. "I thought I could be, but I can't. You're better at this than I am." "You always have been." Tiana pulled the zipper shut and walked out without looking back. The soft click of the door closing behind her would echo in Marcus's memory for years. That night, after he put Alina to bed, he sat in the dark living room, elbows on his knees, trying to understand how quickly love could turn into absence. He wasn't a perfect man, not even close, but he had tried. He had held multiple jobs, skipped meals to pay bills, learned to braid his daughter's hair from online tutorials, slept barely 4 hours a night, and still believed they were moving forward as a family. Now the apartment felt hollow, as if the air had shifted and revealed every crack in the walls. Days blurred into weeks as Marcus fought to adjust. He woke at 4 in the morning to clean office buildings before sunrise, rushed home to dress Alina for preschool, then worked long hours unloading shipments in a warehouse. He didn't tell anyone what happened. He couldn't bring himself to form the words. His heart felt too raw for explanations, but children see more than adults admit. One evening, as he tucked her into bed, Alina traced his cheek with her tiny fingers. "Daddy, why you sad?" He forced a smile. "I'm just tired, baby, but I'm right here with you, always." She nodded, accepting his answer with the innocent confidence only little kids possess. After she fell asleep, Marcus sat by her door for a long time, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing, drawing strength from the simple fact that she still needed him. Life became routine, then survival, then something resembling resilience. Some nights he came home drenched from rain, carrying grocery bags in both hands while Alina slept on his shoulder. Other nights he made pancakes for dinner because cooking anything else felt impossible. The apartment was small and worn down, but it was theirs, kept warm by effort rather than comfort. Slowly, necessity shaped him. He learned how to stretch money until it almost snapped. He took community college classes at night, studying construction management with bleary eyes, while Alina colored next to him. He fixed neighbors' broken cabinets and leaky sinks for extra cash. He saved every dollar that didn't have to be spent. 5 years passed like this, quiet and relentless. Marcus built his first team with 2 friends from the warehouse, both men who knew the meaning of exhaustion and wanted more out of life. They borrowed tools, rented vans, took small repair jobs around town. They poured concrete in the summer heat, repaired roofs through autumn winds, replaced siding in winter when their hands went numb from the cold. Alina grew alongside the company. She started second grade by the time Marcus secured his first major contract with a local developer. He remembered dropping her off at school, wearing a hard hat and dust-covered boots. She waved at him through the window with a gap-toothed smile and shouted, "Daddy, build something awesome." He laughed all the way back to the work truck. Momentum took over. The company expanded, hired more workers, and built a reputation for being reliable, fair, and fast. Even when Marcus felt fear creep up his spine, whispering that he was unqualified or unlucky or bound to repeat old failures, he pushed through. Every risk he took came from a place of necessity, love, and a desire to create something stable for his daughter. Late one winter night, Marcus stood in the office of his newly leased warehouse, the last employee having left for the day. The building still smelled of fresh paint. Stacks of paperwork lay across his desk, along with a blueprint for a multi-million-dollar housing project he had just won. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling. His palms were rough, his back ached constantly, and fatigue clung to him like another layer of clothing. But the exhaustion came with pride now, not despair. As he looked at the blueprint, he thought about the man he used to be, confused, abandoned, scrambling to survive. He almost didn't recognize that version of himself. Growth had been slow and painful, but real. On the drive home, snow fell softly across the windshield, glimmering beneath the streetlights. He parked, walked through the quiet hallway, and entered the apartment. Alina's laughter drifted from her room as she tried to teach the family cat new tricks. She was 10 now, bright, thoughtful, and full of life. Marcus stood in the doorway watching her for a moment, feeling something warm settle in his chest. This, he realized, was the life he built. Not perfect, not easy, but intentionally shaped by every sacrifice he had made. When he closed her door later that night, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared on the screen. "Marcus, it's me. Can we talk?" He froze. His fingers tightened around the phone. A decade of memories, half-healed wounds, and questions he had buried deep inside stirred awake. Tiana. He read the message twice before setting the phone down. His heart pounded, but his mind stayed steady. He wasn't the same man she left behind. Not anymore. But a part of him already knew. Sooner or later, the past always finds a way to knock. And sometimes, it chooses the moment when your life finally starts to make sense. Marcus didn't respond to Tiana's message that night. He placed the phone face down on the counter, poured himself a glass of water, and tried to convince his mind to let the moment pass. But memories have their own gravity. And no matter how far he walked from the past, it still knew how to pull him back. By morning, he had made a decision. He would focus on work, on Alina, on the life he had built. Tiana had chosen her path years ago. He didn't owe her anything. But the world has a way of testing the boundaries you draw for yourself. 3 days later, as Marcus stepped out of his truck after a meeting with a potential investor, he saw her. Tiana stood near the entrance of his company's office building, wearing a coat too thin for the early spring wind. Her hair was longer, her eyes softer, but something behind them looked unsettled, restless. For a moment, neither of them moved. "Marcus," she said finally, almost whispering his name as if afraid it might break apart in the air. He kept his posture calm, controlled. "You shouldn't be here. I didn't know how else to reach you. You didn't answer my messages." "Because I don't have anything to say." There was no anger in his voice, just distance, the kind that forms over years of healing, but she felt it like a door closing. "Can we talk?" she asked. He breathed in slowly, glanced back at the building behind him, then motioned to a quiet bench near the parking lot. They sat with space between them, the silence stretching long enough for Tiana to wrap her arms around herself. "You look different," she said, "stronger." "I had to be," he replied. She nodded, eyes lowering. "I know I don't deserve your time, but I wanted to say I'm sorry for leaving, for everything." Marcus stayed still, Apologies were simple words. Consequences weren't. Tiana took a shaky breath. When I left, I thought life would be easier. I thought I needed freedom, excitement, someone who wouldn't remind me of responsibility. I was wrong. Things fell apart quickly. Jamal wasn't who I thought he was, and I was too ashamed to come back. He didn't interrupt. He simply let her speak, because her confession didn't change the past. I've watched your life from a distance for years, she continued. People talk about you, about your company, your success, and I kept thinking, that should have been our life. I should have been there. Marcus turned to her then, his expression clear and steady. It was our life. You walked away from it. The statement hit her harder than any raised voice could have. She swallowed. I know, and I regret it every day. That's why I'm here. I need a chance to make things right. Maybe we could try again. Maybe we could be a family. Marcus almost laughed, not out of cruelty but disbelief. His mind drifted to the nights he cried quietly so Alina wouldn't hear, the mornings he went to work sick, because bills didn't wait, the birthdays he planned alone, the scraped knees he bandaged, the lullabies he learned by heart. He had built a life from the ruins she left behind. But before he could answer, the building's glass doors swung open and Alina stepped out, backpack slung over one shoulder. She had visited after school to wait for him. She waved excitedly before noticing Tiana. Her smile faded, replaced with confusion. She approached slowly. Dad? Who is that? Tiana's breath caught as she looked at the daughter she abandoned. Alina had her eyes, bright, curious, full of the quiet strength Marcus had nurtured over the years. Hi, Tiana said softly. I'm Tiana. Alina tilted her head. Do I know you? No, Marcus replied gently. You don't. Tiana flinched. Dad? Alina whispered, sensing something heavy. It's okay, he reassured her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Go wait in the truck. I'll be right there. Alina nodded and walked away, glancing back once before getting inside. When the door closed, Marcus faced Tiana fully. You missed her first steps, he began quietly. Her first words, her first day of kindergarten, every school project, every late-night fever, every moment she needed someone to hold her. You don't get those back. Tiana's eyes filled with tears. I know, but I want to be in her life now. I want to try. And I don't want her hurt again, Marcus said. She knows stability, trust, love. Those things weren't given. They were built, brick by brick. A tear rolled down her cheek. I'm not trying to take her from you. I want a chance to know her. Marcus exhaled slowly. There was the twist he hadn't expected. She hadn't come for him. Not truly. She had come for the image of a life she had walked away from. A life she suddenly wanted to reclaim because it looked warm from the outside, but she hadn't earned her way into it. Tiana, he said, voice steady, you're chasing a memory, not a future. What you want isn't us. It's redemption. But you need to find that somewhere else. She blinked, startled. So that's it? No, that's not it. He stood. I'm not angry at you anymore. Truly. I just don't have space in my life for the person you used to be. And I'm not sure you even know who you are now. She stood too, her expression trembling between hope and heartbreak. But Marcus, I changed. I did too, he replied. And I didn't do it to win anyone back. I did it for my daughter, for myself, for a future I refused to compromise. He walked toward the truck, but paused and looked back one last time. You had a choice 10 years ago. You made it. Now I'm making mine. For a moment, Tiana simply stood there, the wind tugging at her coat, her eyes glassy with the weight of a decade-long regret she could no longer outrun. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but no words came. Marcus didn't wait. He climbed into the truck, buckled in, and glanced at Alina. You okay? He asked. She nodded. Yeah. Who was she? A part of my past, he said softly. A part that doesn't belong in our future. They drove off, the building shrinking in the rear-view mirror until it disappeared completely. Marcus felt something inside him settle. Not triumph, not bitterness, but closure. A quiet ending to a story he never thought would find one. Later that night, After Alina fell asleep, Marcus stepped onto the balcony of their apartment. The city lights stretched across the horizon, reflecting off the quiet streets. He leaned on the railing, letting the cool air steady his thoughts. He had spent years believing he was broken because someone chose to leave. He never realized the truth. The strength he carried now wasn't built in spite of what happened. It was built because of it. His phone buzzed. A single message from Tiana. "I'm sorry. For real this time. I'll stay away like you asked. Take care of her." Marcus typed a response, then deleted it, then typed again. "I already do." He hit send. The night felt lighter. Inside, Alina stirred in her sleep, mumbling his name, trusting he was close. Marcus walked back inside, sat at the edge of her bed, and brushed a stray curl from her face. "Everything we need," he whispered, "is right here." And for the first time in years, he finally believed it.